So we're going to be looking at routing reverb and delay back to a board, specifically an analog board. And for this video we're going to be using the Lexicon MX200. We're just going to be using this top one here. These units are actually 2 channel units, so between the both here we've got 4 channels of effects. But anyway, we're going to be using just the top one here, and we're going to be using mix 1. Let's see what we got right here. Mix 1 is going to be reverb, and mix 2 is going to be delay. And for this video, I've got it set up here. We're using a large hall for the reverb, and we're going to be using tape delay for the delay. And really, it's pretty easy to do. As you can see up here, it says processor 1. That is the that means that it belongs to mix 1, and processor 2 belongs to mix 2. So any changes that we make right here on these 3 controls is going to be for reverb. These 3 controls here is going to be used for delay. And you can select, on this particular one, you can select which reverb you want to use just by moving this switch back and forth. Actually, the button here back and forth. So we got to select on large hall. And it's the same with the delay. If we move it up and down, you can see the red light going up and down. So we're just going to use a tape delay. Okay, so we'll get started. Okay, we're going to be using the Allen Heath GL2400 board. And we'll be using the Sennheiser E835 microphone. And on the board, we're going to be using the aux sends 5 and 6. Now, normally, aux sends 1 through 4 on this particular board are used for monitors. We're going to be using 5 and 6. We can tell right there. We're going to be using aux 5 and 6 for reverb and delay. Number 5, which is on this top one here. Number 5 is going to be reverb, and number 6 here is going to be delay. Okay, and I meant to say that we're going to be using one of the Yamaha, the DSR-15s over here, to provide our speaker so we can hear exactly what's going on. Okay, now before we can use the effects, like most any effects, is we have to make sure that the effects are cabled correctly. And in the bottom here, we can barely see it there. If you can see the mix 2 there at the top, we're going to be using that top unit. And I've got this labeled as mix 2, meaning that's the second processor engine that's in it. And the one that's not labeled, I'm just defaulting to as mix 1. So we got to make sure that there's a cable going to the input and a cable going to the output. So basically we're going to be sending a signal from the board into the effects unit, and we're going to be taking the result of what the effects unit does, sending it back down another cable back to the board where we can mix it in with the regular signal. So I've got this one here pre-wired. It's always good to have everything pre-wired. It makes setup substantially faster and reduces the amount of problems. So anyway, alright, let's go take a look at the board, see where the cables go. Okay, these are the other ends of the cables that were coming from the back of that effects unit. And like I said, we're going to be doing delay and reverb. And it's always good to mark the cables either with something that indicates what it is. And here I've got, oops, sorry about that. I've got reverb in, and I've got over here reverb out. And this is not telling you where to put the connections. This is just indicating where these cables go to on the back of the unit. So we're going to start with the reverb in, and you can probably tell it says it right there. Reverb in. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting to the back of the unit, of the console. Let's get a better view of that. This is sort of a weird angle here. So on the back here, we're going to be using auxiliary 5 and 6 for the outputs to send to the effects unit. So auxiliary 5 right here, this is going to be our reverb. And we're going to be taking the delay. Remember, these are the input cables. And the input cables mean that these cables are accepting of an output. So the output's going to come from the board and go down these cables into the effects processor, and then they're going to return to some other channels on the board. So we're going to go over here and do our reverb. Okay, this is our reverb coming back from the board. And on this particular board, it's got some stereo connections in it. We're just going to connect right into one of the connections, one of the stereo connections. And the one we just did here is the reverb. So we have reverb coming back on channel 15. And here, we're going to have reverb, we're going to have delay coming back on channel 16. So, back out a little bit. This is where the signals come out of the board. They go into the back of the unit, into the processing. We're going to process reverb and delay, and we're going to be returning them right to here. Okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is just make sure that we're going to have enough signal coming into the board, and we're going to be using row number 10 over here, fader number 10. Where are we at? Fader number 10 right there. We're going to be using fader number 10 to do all of our stuff on. So what I'm going to be doing is just making sure that we've got a strong enough signal coming into the board. Because without a good strong signal, it's hard to get some good reverb as well as delay. Okay, check 1 2 2 1 2. Check 1 2 2 1 2. Okay, let's look down here. Check 1 2. Okay, you can see it there on the channel level there. Check 1 2 2 1 2. Okay, let's do a PFL. You can see how loud the signal is coming down on the board. Check 1 2. Here we go. Okay, so pretty confident that should be loud enough for there. Now, to send the signals to a reverb and delay, it's just like setting them up for a monitor mix, because usually use auxes for monitors, so we're going to be using aux 5 and 6. So what we want to do is make sure that we have enough volume going to the main master for the aux. So we're going to start with aux 5 right here, and this is going to be our reverb. So we're just going to turn this up a little bit. Check 1 2. Okay, so we've got 5 turned up. Now what we're going to do, let me pan around over here, is these 2 yellow ones right here. These are the masters right here. Here is reverb, and here is delay. So we're going to do an AFL on this. Check 1 2. Now we don't have anything coming through yet because it's not up. But the board, the channel is at where it should be. So if we turn this up, check 1 2 2 2 2. What we're going to be doing is, if you take a look here, the pre and post button that's over here, we want to keep this in post. We do not want the signals going to the effects units unless, let me pan out here a little bit. We do not want the effects going to the units unless our faders are turned up. So in other words, the only time that the reverb unit should get something is when the fader is being moved up. When the fader's down, we don't want any signal going to the reverb unit at all, as well as the delay. So for running effects, we want to make sure that we keep everything post. So for these 2 rows here, in this example, everything would be post. So this button right here, we're going to keep it up in post position. Okay, now that we have the signal coming into it, and because it's post, we're just going to run this up here to Unity because we want to be able to send a signal over to the master bus. Now if we pan over here, we've got these 2 yellow, let me zoom in here a little bit, the two yellow masters. This is reverb, and this one here is delay. So we've got the reverb one already turned up, so we're going to do an AFL on it. That's an after fade listen, and as you can tell, we are getting a signal coming in. Oh, let me pan up here. There we go. As you can tell, we've got a signal coming in to the master bus. So I take it off of there, you don't see anything. So this is a good way to make sure we've got the proper signal flow. Okay, so it comes into the master bus on the board, which means this is now auxiliary 5. That goes out of the back of the board. Now, it's going out the back of the board. So now, let's just go over to our effects unit. There we go. Hopefully we can get everything in there. All right. Okay, so I'm talking here. Check 1, 2. We are going to get reverb coming in. Okay, now we've got this, we've got a lot coming on here, which is fine. And obviously this level here is all based upon how loud the board is, how loud the aux sends are, how loud I'm talking, how much gain is being put on the channel. Test 1, 2. So we talk a little bit louder. It is going to get louder, but for in here, this should be just fine. Okay, now for the mix, we're going to be doing a full what they call wet mix. We don't want anything dry. If we want it dry, we wouldn't be using the system. So we want a wet mix on the reverb, and we've got this set over here to large hall. Now the controls over here, let me pan it over here just a little bit so you can see what's going on. Now on this particular unit, the Lexicon unit, some units may have this, we have the control over when we want the effect to come on, the pre-delay. The K is how long do we want the effect to last, and the variation is pretty much what frequency, the tone of it when it returns. Whether you want something dull or bright. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so we've got our settings set over there. Now let's head back to the board and we'll try it out. Okay, we're back at the board. We've still got our fader up here at Unity, and what I've done here on the assignment switches, I've just selected left and right. We're not going to go through any subgroups or anything like that for this example. So I just selected left and right so that the signal is going to be fed out the left and right bus. Okay, now when we're talking, as you can see the signal level there, test 1, 2. All right. Now we have our reverb coming in on this channel right here. This one right here. And our delay will be coming in over here, but we haven't done anything with the delay yet. We're only going to focus on the reverb. So what we want to do is we want to assign this reverb to come back onto the left and right bus. Now, just like when we were setting the channel gain over here on the mic, we need to make sure that we have plenty of gain coming in on a return channel, because now this effect now becomes basically another instrument into the whole mix. So we have to mix the reverb back into the overall mix. I'm going to pan out here so we can maybe see a little more about what's going on. So what I'm going to do is right up here, okay, that ST2, that bottom red knob you see in the center there, that's our gain. That's what's coming back to the board from the effects unit. And what we're going to do is we're going to assign that channel, that blue channel there, to left and right, which, yeah, I'm just duplicating myself. I already did. Now what we've got to do is test it, and we will make sure that it comes back. But first, what we're going to do is let's put this down, and we're going to make sure that we've got something come through. Check 1, 2. Check, check, check 1, 2. Okay, that's from the Yamaha DSR speaker right in front of us. And no, there shouldn't be any feedback. It's not too loud. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so we know that works. So let's go down here to the reverb. Now if you notice, so far we've been doing pretty much everything without any volume, which is really what you want to do, is make sure everything is routed the same, not routed the same, but everything is routed correctly and all the levels are set before we ever listen to anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to PFL our return channel, and what we do is we want to watch it come in. So I'm going to pan this over here a little bit so we can see the meter. So check 1, 2. So okay, I'm going to be doing the check 1, 2, the gain 1, 2, 2, and really for effects, reverb and delay, we usually don't need too much coming in. Okay, now if you notice here when I'm talking, now watch when I stop talking, the second I stop talking, there's still a signal there. That is because that is the reverb that is holding the signal. So check 1, 2. See how long I held it? 1, 2. Okay, we know that the reverb is working. We have good gain coming in. Okay, let me take that off of PFL. Okay, let's go back down here. Okay, our fader is still up on the mic. Check 1, 2. Okay, here's our dry signal. This is a no reverb. So let's just add some reverb now. Check 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, we got a little bit of reverb coming in. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now that is quite a bit, and professionally speaking, I would not run it this way, but this is a good way to show that it's actually working. 1, 2. Now because it's post-fade on the mic fader, when I bring it down, it should be completely out, and it is. Test 1, 2, we hear nothing. This is how it's supposed to work. Check 1, 2, so we're going to add more to it, and the louder that the mic fader gets, 1, 2, 2, the louder the reverb should be as well. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Check 1, 2. Okay, that's pretty simple. So we got the reverb set up. Now let's work on the delay. Check 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, we're going to work on the delay, and as you can probably tell, you can see the reverb is still coming through, which is fine. That's what we want. So I'm going to take that out, and let's do the delay. So right up here on number 5, I'm sorry, there we go. Okay, we're going to be using aux 6 here for the delay. So I'm going to turn that up. I'm just going to leave it the same place as reverb. And obviously in a live kind of situation, you want to set these. Sometimes you don't need a lot of delay in something, sometimes you do. But delay is mostly used for vocals. Don't use delay for drums unless you're trying to do some kind of a special effect. Don't use delays for guitars or anything like that unless the guitar says, I don't have delay, can you please add some delay? Delay is usually always used for the vocals as something to fill in. And placement of reverb and delay on the board is important as well. And we've made delay intentionally, here let me move down a little bit. We've made delay intentionally on this channel here. And this is just so that when you are mixing somebody, and let's say you've got all of your subgroups up, and let's say you've got your mains up, when you're doing delay, you really don't want to have to go in the middle of something to grab a delay and turn it up or down. It's just easier to keep delay on the far right hand side of wherever it is that you're working on, the far right hand side, because then you know this is always delay. You can bring up delay and bring it down as it's needed. Reverb, on the other hand, is usually turned up and it's usually left in a particular position, but delay is not the same way. And hopefully here we'll see why in a second. All right, so we've got our level set over here on the channel, channel 5. Okay, now we're going to go over to the bus, just like reverb, and we're going to turn our delay up. Okay, I'm going to talk in this now. Check 1, 2. I want to get rid of that. Check. Check 1, 2. Okay, our AFL 1, 2, 2. Okay, that looks like a good enough signal going to the delay engine. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, let's pan over here. Let's take a look at our delay. Now, if you remember, our delay is in that top unit, and if you see the left and right there, just to the right of the word lexicon, check 1, 2. The left and right. Okay, left is reverb and right is delay. Check 1, 2. Okay, we want a full wet signal here on delay. So let's pan over here, and we're going to just sort of loosely set some variables just to get something to come through. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 2. Okay, it's coming through there. All right, let's go back down to the board, and we want to look at the delay channel now, which is at this far right one. Okay, and then there's our gain setting. See on the left, that's the reverb. On the right, check 1 2. Okay, we know it's coming in. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Let's do a PFL. Wow, okay, that's a good strong signal coming in here. If we pan over here, check 1 2. Okay, notice the delay in that when it's coming through. Check. Check. See the delay in it coming through? That means I got the pre-delay set sort of high. And just to give you an example here, pre-delay is set really high now. Check. Okay, see that took quite a few milliseconds for it to come through. Check. Yeah, see that would, obviously that's going to be way too much. So we're just going to turn this down to something that's probably a bit more reasonable. And once again, there is no there's no steady way of setting these controls so that they're always correct all the time. It's a lot of variables involved in setting it up. Check 1 2. Okay, let's just try that. All right, let's go down here. Okay, we're PFLing our channel. Check 1 2. Okay, you can tell the delay's coming in now. So remember, reverb is over here, and our delay is right here. Check 1 2. 2 2 2. Okay, here's a dry signal coming in. Let's get rid of that. Check 1 2. Okay, now let's add some delay. Check 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Check 1. Now on the delay, we can control how long it decays. 1. See, that's almost annoying because at too long of a delay, everything starts running together. We don't want that. So we're just going to do a shorter delay, just a few. Pre-delay is probably okay. Check 1 2 2. Check 1. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of reverb back into it. Check 1 2 1. And we can add some delay as well as the reverb. But the whole idea is to keep the reverb just below, I don't want to say being obnoxious, but if it's too much, people are going to only notice the reverb. So we want to keep it low, just enough that people know that maybe something's there, but maybe not. Check 1 2. Okay, now the trick to using delay is it does not need to be used all the time. It can be very obnoxious to always be hearing delay. And when you're using delay with vocals, it needs to be used respectfully. So if you want to run, we'll get a little volume here. When you want to run delay a little bit, you know what? Just keep it down. Because the delay, you may be able to hear that coming in. It's just slightly there. If you feel you need to use it, just use it very, very sparingly if you need to use it all the time. Now, with delay, it works great for vocals because normally I would probably have this all the way down like it is. When somebody's singing, though I'll have reverb, I'll have a little bit of reverb in there. And when they are, especially if it's a song that you know, you can introduce delay for those particular parts of the song that has delay, and then you can just bring it back out. So, for example, I'm going to count to 7, and then on number 4, I'm going to pause. Let's just say this is a song, but on number 4, I'm going to pause, and I can do a delay, and then I can continue on with the numbers. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when somebody is singing, and especially if you know the song, get your hand ready on the delay And as they're singing, add a little bit of reverb to it. Believe me, people notice that a lot more than constantly hearing some kind of delay that is taking place, because it becomes very obnoxious listening to it. So, add a little bit more power here. 1, 2. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so okay, that is a very basic look at how to add reverb, and delay into your mixing. So anyway, this has been just a very brief overview, and I hope you got some benefit out of it. Thanks for watching.